My friends, good day. In the last video, we talked about Oracle, which laid off about 30,000 people this week with an email sent at 6 a.m. Today is your last day of work. People who worked for the company for 20 years didn't even get a meeting to explain what's going on. An email, and the next moment, your account is locked, your bank card is locked, everything is locked. And then you're out. I was saying that in my life, this has happened to me several times. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about it today. From another perspective, the perspective of those who stay, of those who aren't fired, which isn't a bright perspective either. You'll see before we start quickly, there's a link in the video description. It's the link to our sponsor, meilleurjob.com. It helps you find jobs that aren't necessarily posted. 80% of the jobs companies need aren't necessarily posted on online platforms. This system helps you find them. You enter a specialty, you enter a geographic area, and then you upload a resume. It will modify your resume according to your wishes, adapt it to the job, and send it. So it can be something that makes a difference, especially in a world where all the candidates are using this. So if you're still working the old-fashioned way, you're in a manual system that may or may not work. But I think you're depriving yourself of a very powerful tool. The link is in the video description, and it gives you 50% off for the first month. But you'll see, it's not very expensive. So I was saying it happened to me several times to be in companies that were struggling, and I can tell you, I'd have a hard time finding a company that wasn't struggling. That seems to be the signature of the times today, the mark of the times. Wherever you go, when they're recruiting you in interviews, they tell you, yes, here we want success, here everything is going well, customers love our products, we handed out bonuses, we did this, we did that. The day you sign, you arrive on a Monday morning, you clock in, and then you discover the reality. So as I was saying, those who stay, those who aren't fired, those who aren't let go, it's not necessarily a great life for them. Once I was at a company and I remember it was struggling and I knew it. Bad decisions kept following bad decisions. We were losing a lot of money. The media was criticizing us. Clients were leaving for the competition. Nobody liked us. And yet we were still there, defying the odds. And then what had to happen, happened. The human resources lady came into the open space. You come with us. So the guy gets up, goes up to the second floor. That's where the director's office was, an extremely slow office. Like that, all long, it almost looked like a hallway, with his desk at the end, flanked by 2 or 3 people, an American manager, another human resources lady. Everyone had a closed-off expression. You see the guy go up, 5 minutes later he comes back like a pariah. Nobody talks to him, nobody says goodbye, not even a pat on the back. There's the security guy who's there, he takes him to his office, he packs up his things, and he's out. Then you come on, you go up, bam, done. And they spent the whole day firing people, just like that. And at one point she called me, so well, I was ready, as they say. So I arrive at the director's office and then he says to me, well, we're going to keep you. Great, I pretend I'm at the table, thinking he's going to keep me. So I went back down to work, but what I did was I had already prepared a resume. Actually, I was already interviewing elsewhere. Because as soon as I smelled the vinyl, I took the initiative. And actually what I did, which I'll tell you about another time, but I annoyed them a little because what they wanted, these gentlemen, was for me to accept a pay cut to save the company. Wait, I'm not an investor. I contacted them because they hit a rough patch. I asked why, since I had them. I began fighting back, sending registered letters with receipts and so on. And actually, because I just wanted to get revenge for the others, those who left quietly. Because for me, anyway, I was signing somewhere else, so I had a month to have fun and I enjoyed myself. So the letter I wrote to them was, I'm not an investor, I'm an employee. I see you messing up all the time. I told him like that, I see you messing up all the time. You're making bad decisions. Big clients are leaving because of you. What do you think? If I made the decisions, this wouldn't have happened. But you're in charge and steering things. But me, my salary, I don't have it. I don't know. It's a risk. There's a contract. It's a guarantee. My salary, you see, so I got my full salary. Those who stayed accepted a pay cut. Me, Jay, the only one who was paid in full. I demanded every last cent. I said, otherwise, I'll take you to court. And actually, it was very funny because it was unexpected for them. Because in a way, they were saying, and that's what companies do. Often they say, We fire some of the staff, and the others, how are they? The others are treated like dogs. The others will be terrified. The others will be obeying, working overtime, and all the while saying, thank God. They didn't fire me, but not only did they keep me, but afterwards I made them regret keeping me. You see, so that was one case. And then what I did was I sent them a resignation letter. I waited for them to pay, wanting every cent. For me, that's very important. I saw the salary come into the last cent. I told myself I won, so playing isn't interesting anymore. I sent them my resignation letter, so that was one thing. Another time, and I won't hide from you that it was a bit more dramatic. Maybe that's a strong word, but I know I felt really, really bad, let me tell you. I was at the beginning of my career, really happy to have found a job, paid peanuts, of course. Looking back, it was a job I got a little too easily. I didn't have the experience, but they had me sign a contract, and I was happy. I started working, and 3 months later, the company began laying people off. We weren't laid off, us, the new cohort, but look, what happened was that the seniors who were guiding us, can you imagine? You arrive at the company, there's a guy, he takes you under his wing. He'll take you to lunch, he'll explain how to work, he'll correct your mistakes, he'll cover them up. Sometimes you even like him a lot because he's really there for you. You feel like he wants to share his expertise and all that. And 3 months later, you know what happens. He gets fired because he has a senior salary and his responsibilities fall on your shoulders. Figure it out, do them. Okay, so at that point, you feel like you've been used. You've been used because they just wanted to lower the payroll. And when you stay, you're not. I was really upset. I remember I was really upset. And I stayed in that company for a while. And there I hadn't found another job. Actually, I stayed until the company went bankrupt. They went bankrupt a few months later because let me tell you something. What they did morally was already bankruptcy. And let me tell you something. You know, when you want to know how a company is going to go bankrupt, I'll tell you right now. Financially, it's very hard to estimate a bankruptcy. Why? Because you don't have the numbers, you don't have the real numbers. Even when the company communicates, they're very good. Even the financial reports, they're very good at hiding, at giving other labels, sometimes even falling into outright illegality. But even without falling into illegality, I can tell you that a lot of companies are very, very good at hiding things. You see, well, on the other hand, there's one thing financially, you'll have a hard time finding the numbers, I said. But on the moral level, that you can see it, and moral bankruptcy always comes before financial bankruptcy. It never fails, that. So, when you see a company using that kind of methods, dirty methods, methods to scam customers, cheat, cover up, falsify, you see it from the inside. They have been judged on a fair scale, and history has decided that they will not continue. It ends there, it's the end of the line, they're going to get off. So ideally, you leave before. I couldn't leave before. It was the beginning of my career. I didn't have a resume. You know, my resume was a bit shaky and all that. And what happened is that I stayed until the moment when the end of the month came, the salary didn't come in. And so they started sending us apology emails. Yes, it's going to come in. We're waiting for an extension from the bank and a fundraising round, etc. They told us not to leave since leaving counts as job abandonment. You see, the rules are for them, for the companies, not for you. And in the end, I wasn't paid. And then the company went bankrupt 6 weeks later and we all got laid off. You see, but what happens when there's a round of layoffs, when there's a redundancy plan? Usually the next day, because they've done it to us, the next day you'll have a meeting with the N. Not even the N+1, because the N+1 is just some guy who's there watching. Those who arrive late, those who leave on time, those who are on vacation, etc. But usually you'll have your N+2, your N+3 and all that. Maybe even the chief executive officer of the company who holds a meeting and says, so you heard the news from yesterday, some of your colleagues have left. Now we want you to stop speculating and keep executing, keep delivering, because now the company is in very good financial shape and we believe we have a bright future and we will have to deliver value for our customers because the markets are watching us. And then our stock price went up by 4% yesterday because they saw that we, with the leadership team, are taking the right steps. You are in very good hands, and we want you to keep executing, to listen to the leaders. That's what I mean. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. I can do this for you for 2 hours because I've heard it all my life. As soon as you join a company, you're going to hear that. So what happened is that typically how it boils down, everything I'm telling you, it boils down. How it boils down to what they're going to tell you. So we were a team of 9, now we're a team of 3, and we're going to have to execute, we're going to have to deliver. Listen, delivering the same work, you'd have to be crazy to deliver the same work. You can't deliver the same work. In fact, they expect you to destroy your family life, your health, to burn out, to burn yourself out, so that they can improve their numbers. Because the companies that lay off the most often, why? It's to show the market that their margins are higher. Because what they're going to do is they have operational costs. They want to lower operational costs. So for example, let's say, imagine you made $1 billion last year. You made $1 billion in revenue last year. It's not the same thing. If you did it with 5,000 employees, it's not the same as if you did it with 3,000 employees. It's not the same thing, you see, because with 3,000 employees, you have lower salaries, you have a lower payroll. So let's say they made $1 billion last year by immediately laying off 2,000 people. Well, they say, look, we made $1 billion with 3,000 people, which is not true. They actually did it with 5,000, but the calculations aren't like for like. And what will probably happen is that the company in the future will collapse. Because once it has fewer people, not only did it lay off 2,000 people, but you know what's going to happen? There are people who will leave on their own. Some people think if the company is laying off employees, they'll leave instead of staying. So they lay off 2,000 people, but others will leave, others won't come. Because the market people outside, they'll know that this company lays people off by email. Like that, who wants to risk their career for this? Who wants to go to a company like that? People won't go there. The people who are already there and can't go elsewhere, they'll go into quiet quitting. They'll stop taking risks or making efforts, knowing their colleagues were laid off last week. Eventually, they may be next, so they'll just do the bare minimum. Which means that at Rockaway, about 30,000 people, it's not 30,000 they laid off, maybe they actually laid off 80,000, you see, in reality, in practice. Because at their place, there are plenty of people who want to leave and plenty of people who don't want to make any more effort. Of course, there are always some naive people who will work themselves to death. If you try to understand, think about 30,000 people who were laid off. You'll destroy your health long before you've made up for the people who were laid off. It's not worth it, it's useless, do the minimum, let the deadlines run. You tell management, we don't have a choice, I don't have the cycles, I don't have the number of people, I can't do anything. If you want me to change something else, if he tells you this project is falling behind, well, I can make it a priority, but what about the other project you gave me yesterday? What do I do with it? That's it, it's give and take. And then let everything go over. If a client isn't happy, they'll go to the competition. That's it, get out. Those who tell you leave, go to the competition. Why are you here? Be careful, the company isn't the business where you work. It's not your father's company. You're not going to inherit it. You're not the heir. All right, so don't worry. If it sinks, it sinks. Anyway, as soon as you leave, it's like it never existed for you. So there you go, my friends. What's happening is terrible, but still you need to talk about it more. With AI and all that, this obsession with cutting costs at all costs, but it drives companies to destroy themselves. Why? Because just one last thing, when the company lays off, like I said, 2,000 people and all that, and it will never be able to make the same numbers and things are going to get worse and everything. That's true, yes, but companies today are managed in the short term. Nobody cares about the long term. Nobody cares about the long term. Why? Because the market, it works day by day. The people who are in vice president positions, C-level and all that, they have quarterly results. They look at things every 3 months. That's it, every 3 months. So as long as we manage to get good numbers in the next 3 months, it's great. And then we work for the next 3 months. We sacrifice, break things, and waste resources. And when everything fails, what does that same vice president or C-level who once called us a family do? And what happens to that extraordinary company? And I'm very proud to work for this company and of the achievements we've made together. He'll be working for the competition. And the next thing he does, you know what he'll do. Let me tell you, I want to make you cynical. I want you to become cynical. All right, I don't want to hear people say, I'm loyal to my company anymore. I've seen guys have C-level positions, all right? C, that means they have stock options, huge salaries, huge benefits, even when they travel, even when they do things. I don't know, he does Paris-Geneva trips, gets first class, all negotiated in his contract when he started. You know what he'll do. Once he's messed up the whole company just to get his bonuses, he leaves for the competition. And you know what happens next? He picks up the phone. I'm talking about the Clivel, not some guy from downstairs. He picks up the phone and calls the clients he had developed personal relationships with, the ones he visited when he was flying first class. And you know what he's going to say to them? Oh, yeah, are you still with? Yeah, I had lunch. I moved over to so and so, the competition. And then, do you want to meet up? I'd really like to see you. We could go. I could invite you. I could invite you to lunch, and then we'll talk. Because, we have some really great offers here. We have better products. I know you had a lot of problems at the previous company. We really have some very powerful products and all that. He's going to bring it. He's going to take it to his former employer, and he's going to screw them over. Once again, you see, and companies appreciate it. You should know businesses actually like getting screwed over. That's really how it is. If you're the guy who gives it your all, who works like it's your father's company, I'll predict your future. You'll be a broke retiree and you'll be in a constant state of burnout and stress. I'm telling you, don't get into that. Don't be that guy. Don't play that role. All right, that's it, my friends. Thank you for listening to this video. We're still fighting. Check out the link to mailyourjob.com in the video description and in the pinned comment. And I'll see you in the next one. See you very soon.